And just to take your memory back, we did, in June, we did mad, sad, glad, scared, and talked about that scale. And just I'm curious if any of the emotion stuff has come into play either in your life or in your doula work since we started talking about it 3 months ago now.
I thought the work about the sort of level of intensity of certain emotions and where they were allowed in especially your childhood, and how you therefore respond to other people being more or less intense was a very fine distinction and super helpful.
Thanks, Wendy. Was that a hand, Nina? Yes. Okay.
I'm doing 8 things at the same time. I ended up having a conversation with my daughter around that. And what kind of a parent was I in allowing her to express her emotions, and how has that translated into her adult life? It was a really good conversation. So I was very grateful around that. So, and it also helped me to understand myself and why I get uptight or why I get nervous, or, you know, the different things that I feel based on what someone else is feeling. So yeah, really very helpful.
Thank you. Nina.
Yeah, I had a conversation with my husband about it, which was really interesting. And I feel like personally it's helped with that scale, the mad, sad, happy, glad. And I've shared it with a few of my clients, whether they're social workers or different people out in the fields working one-on-one with people, and everybody's found it so helpful. So thank you.
Good. I'm glad. I think I told you it was one of my favorite tools that I've used for a long time. And I had a similar conversation with my daughter when I first learned it. And my own realization was I never let my kids be scared. You know, I poo-pooed their fear. There's nothing to be afraid of, you know, instead of, you know, what does it feel like when you're afraid? Instead of letting them explore that, I sort of stifled it. And I'm seeing the results of it. It's interesting. Or I'm making up that I'm seeing the results of it. So anybody else want to say anything about any of the emotion stuff before we move on? We are shifting gears today. I did want to show you my shirt. So it is Love is Greater Than Fear. I need it for all kinds of reasons recently. But today's focus is on the body and grief. Give me a second here. So if we're going to do any work at all with talking about the body, talking about somebody else's body, helping someone explore what's going on in their own body, we have to have a comfort level with our own bodies. And I know in this, just in our doula group, we have dancers and we have yoga practitioners and we have actors. We have massage therapists. We have people who have a body awareness. And just mentally right now, I want to have you give yourself a rating between 1 and 10, with 10 being I am really comfortable with my body. Just how comfortable are you in your own skin, with your own body? So give yourself that rating. And we don't need to talk about it, just it's an awareness. And anytime we're going to introduce body stuff, it's a great idea to remind ourselves, okay, yeah, no, if I'm not comfortable, they're not going to be comfortable. And I'm an old teacher of the deaf. And when I learned, first of all, when you teach deaf people, you have to have an enormous amount of expression. I felt like an actor sometimes, but then sign language I had to learn and utilize all the time. And awkward. I mean, I just had to get comfortable with screwing up all the time. I was going to have it wrong. I was going to make mistakes. And it took me a while before I could just be like, yeah, okay, I'll try. Yeah, I'll do that again. Okay, really? You didn't understand me again? Okay, no, I didn't understand you either. And, back and forth. If you've done a foreign language, you know that only the body one adds another element to it. It's not just your tongue and trying to pronounce a word that you haven't figured out how to pronounce. It's a whole lot more to it than that. So now I want to go to grief for a minute, and then how we're going to do this is we'll do a few exercises, and we're going to do one small group and have you practice that exercise with each other. And then we'll do a few more exercises. And then I'm going to invite you to what is it you know and what is it you use. And in the end, I'm not comfortable with my drawing skill either, but I'm going to draw how we do these things and send it out to you so that you have a reminder of what we've done. So often, we are so skilled at thinking that we think we can think ourselves out of grief. I just have to think harder. I just have to figure it out somehow. And it's kind of like, thinking your way out of childbirth. It's not going to happen. Your body has to be engaged in the process. Or thinking your way through knee rehab, Judy or Rhonda. It just doesn't work. You can't, it's just not a brain thing, a mind thing. Your body has to be engaged in it. So what we're going to do, most of what we're going to do is based on the work of Paul Denniston, who he's the person who David Kessler uses to teach grief yoga. And he has a book out called, what's his book called? Something. I'll make sure you have that at some point. Oh, Healing Through Yoga. That's his book. He's got an interesting background. His father, he's from Southern Texas. His father was a very conservative minister who bottled up all of his anger. And then it exploded, of course, when he couldn't bottle it up any further. His mother absolutely thought sadness denied her faith in God. And so she wouldn't allow herself sadness, even when his sister died. So he had to find his own way to deal with what went on in his life. And he found it through yoga and then decided to teach it. So he's part of what we're doing. I just did some recent learning on trauma and what happens when we go through trauma. And when someone experiences the death of someone they love, it's traumatic. It's a traumatic event. And two things, got a police car going by on Selby Avenue that you might be able to hear. Two things that I just learned about when your body's going through trauma is the trembling that happens is really, really common, normal, natural, and it's your body releasing some of the energy that the trauma creates. So I used to think, oh my God, they're going into shock. It's not. It's actually your body. Trauma causes trembling. And so someone said, if you're experiencing trauma, get comfortable with trembling because it's your body. And so I wanted to bring that up because we might be in with a person who is dies, and then their family members suddenly start to shake and aren't sure what's going on. And it's like that you're experiencing some trembling. That it's a traumatic event when someone you love dies. Just being able to add that explanation is helpful. And then the second piece of that is to, when that's going on for someone, is to ground them in something that's real. So can I touch your hand? Or can you touch your own heart right now? Something that's sense related, something they can hear or touch or see. You know, let's look at how peaceful your mom is right now. Would you like to touch her? Would that feel good if you touched your mom right now? Making it real for them in a way that's gentle. That's a way of grounding what feels like a traumatic event. Okay. Is this making sense? All right. So I'm going to have to back up a little in order to do some of this. You and you know, people are going to be comfortable or not doing this with me, and I'm fine however you want to do it. And trust that that will be the same for whomever you're dealing with. You may need to show it to them, explain it to them, and say, no, in the comfort of your own home, you may want to try this, because they may not want to ever do it in front of you. But the first thing you need to do is to make sure you center yourself. And some of us, if we're really body aware, we know when we're centered. We know when our butt is in the chair and we are centered. But some people have to lean forward and lean back and then land in the center, or go off to the one side or the other side, or scooch around till they feel centered. It's like, okay, I feel centered. And that's something I'm assuming we all do when we visit a patient. We center ourselves before we walk in that door, before we take a step, just because it allows us to do what we need to do so well. That's the first exercise that we're going to do, is just that centering. So done. The second one, if you've got someone who is just not sure what to do, this is the most gentle self hug you can imagine. It is so gentle. I taught this to a friend, and when she was doing it to herself, she was rubbing and her skin was moving. And I said, I'm thinking you could be more gentle with yourself. It's just a gentle self hug, telling yourself, I'm okay. I'm okay right now. I'm okay. So if we've got someone who doesn't know anything else to do, it's like, can we just try this one thing? You know, I'm going to do it. I'm going to show you, and maybe you can do this when you're on your own, or even right now when you're on the phone with me, or when we're talking, you can do this with yourself. And it also gives you a clue of how gentle someone is able to be with themselves. I mean, you can see. I'm thinking about my current patient's husband, who is a retired plumber, who's almost 91. And I can't imagine him doing that. But I can imagine me saying, can I show you, Leon? Can I just show you what that could feel like? And showing him so that he's got, oh, that's different than what I would do, just to give people an idea of how to be gentle with themselves. Okay, so another one that's easy to do over the phone has to do with your heart. And you simply ask people, put one hand over your heart and take a couple of breaths. And I'll do the same. And over the phone, I might say to someone, I'll do the same. And you can actually do this with someone who's dying. You don't have to just do this with someone who's grieving. Now, if you can, put your other hand over your heart. Take a couple breaths. How gently are you holding your heart? And then after a couple of breaths, you ask a question. And I'm going to give you some examples, but I'm going to trust that you could come up with your own questions. How's your heart today? And let them answer. How's your heart today? What does your heart miss today? What is your heart longing for? What would your heart like to tell you right now? all the while having their hand on your heart. So this is one I want to actually have you try with each other, just to get an experience of what it's like to have your hands on your heart and answering the question that might be posed to you. So here's the deal. In a second, I'll ask Rhonda to put us in groups of, looks like groups of 3. And each person gets a chance to take the lead to say, put your hand on your heart and take a breath. Do just like I did. And then ask a question. Whatever question comes to you is the right question. And then let the person answer. So we have one person who's the questioner, one person who's perhaps the bereaved, and an observer. And then rotate so that you each have a chance to do this. And it's about a minute and a half. I mean, we don't have to do this for long. I just want you to have the experience of all 3 roles. Is it clear what I'm asking you to do? Okay, so it's a role play. So Rhonda, if you can put us into
And you want how many minutes?
3 people, let's do 4 minutes.
Okay. All right. See you in 4 minutes.
Modicum amount. I'm not being super naughty about the sun. I've been tempering myself. But yeah, I'm getting some sun. So, well, who wants to be first?
Oh, first in terms of which one, which role?
Pick. Does anybody want to do one first?
I'll do this one first.
Okay, so you'll be the person that gets asked.
Mhm.
Okay. Patricia, do you have a preference?
I'll do the asking.
Okay.
So,
I gotta show you this.
oh,
What is that?
Geese.
Holy Lord, what are they running from?
I don't know. Francis
Now
isn't
they're
out there,
running
but
to
they're
the
coming.
lake, it looks like.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nice.
Okay. So, Rhonda, put your hand on your heart gently. Just feel your body. Think about being in touch with your body. And then if you're comfortable, put your other hand on your heart and take a deep breath. What is your heart telling you?
My heart is telling me that there is a season for everything. That's going through my heart.
That's
That-
lovely.
And that this is actually, tomorrow is my daughter who died. It's her birthday.
Hmm.
And so
Mhm.
there's sadness about that. And it's not a constant sadness, but it's a sadness, like it's time for me to just be a little sad. And that's where I'm at right now.
And that's
And
perfectly fine.
And I may choose tomorrow to go find some ice cream. And then I might be happy for a little bit. Mhm.
That's lovely. Thank you.
Awesome.
All right, who's the next heart?
I'll be the next heart person.
Right. I'll be the asker then.
Okay.
So Nina, put your hands on your heart and feel an awareness put both of your hands on your heart and feel an awareness of your hands and your heart and the communication that's going on between the two. What are they saying to each other?
Just how grateful I am to be in this space, in this place, and then so connected with nature and my family, and humbled by the gift that this is every year, and what it means and what it leads to, and all the things that happen, and the conversations and the stars and the fish.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Okay, I get to ask. And
Yeah,
Patricia, you
I'm
get
the heart person.
Okay. Patricia, thank you for coming today. And if you would, just place your hand on your heart.
Rhonda, did you go in a room too?
I did. I had to leave early, but I did both the giving and the receiving, and then I had to take off while they did theirs.
Good. You're all back. Okay. So what was that like? Good. It worked. It worked. Okay. I'm
I
gonna,
think in the busyness of everything, like it kind of doesn't force, but it allows for slowing down, because when you're now, here's what you're doing. I mean, it's like it's one thing to just be like, take a breath and but this it kind of really encourages you to get in touch and slow down, stop what's going on, not stop, but focus.
pay attention.
I thought it was really beautiful. It did really ground us into something that's real and in our body, the heart that's beating, making me go. And I feel like it's a good practice just to do with ourselves too. If we're kind of start the day that way, or just if you're feeling a little all over the place, I feel like it was a good kind of easy self grounder.
Thank you. Patricia, do you have a comment?
It just reminded me of also, it felt really good, but also reminded me that some of these things, you do have to practice them, even when it feels a little bit awkward. I remember when we first learned guided imagery, and when we were taking the doula course, I thought, oh God, I'm never going to be able to do this. It feels so weird, but doesn't really anymore. And so it just gets to be a much more of a flowing thing if you dare to try.
Yeah. And when I was a coach, an executive coach, I would ask executives, who are struggling with a decision, so just put your hand on your heart for a minute. And we'd just be in silence. And then I'd say, what do you know now? And they'd be surprised by what was clear to them all of a sudden. So. All right, I want to show you a couple of more, and they get weirder. So this one is called
Mel.
What?
That's a judgment.
You're right. This one's called Canon Breath. And the goal is that you're actually channeling pain or energy through the body. And you do this one, hands on stomach or hands on belly, or like maybe even like this or like this. And there's pressure there, but not a lot of pressure yet, because you got to do 3 inhales, especially through your nose. And then you're going to exhale with breath, with voice, you're going to voice your exhale. So it's got a little bit more energy to it. So I'm going to I'll just show you 3 quick breaths in. And then I pushed farther and it came out with some sound. So I'll do it one more time, and I'm going to show you a couple variations on that one, because it doesn't have to have much force. So it's sort of a letting, and I didn't give it much voice. That was mostly breath, but you can let it have lots of voice depending on what kind of energy is in there. A variation of that one is hands here, and you do the quick breaths. And when you breathe out, you go like this with your arms, sort of opening the heart, opening the chest. So it's and you can do it with a lot of energy if there's a lot of anger or a lot of angst, or you can do it with relief. Just knowing that you're releasing something. Sometimes we're stuck in our grief, and it's a way of releasing. Sometimes we're stuck in our story, and it's a way of releasing, wherever it is we're stuck, letting it go. If people have a lot of energy and anger around grief, it actually helps to let them, what are you angry at? This and this and this and this and that, and let them come up with what they're angry about. And if they've got a lot of energy, they'll punch hard. But another way to do it is just to let them push it away. I'm angry that I wasn't there. I'm angry that my sister didn't call me. Whatever it is, and let them push it out, push it out, push it out, push it out. So it's either punching or pushing that allows for that energy release. Another judgmental weird one, but it actually is helpful if they just don't know what to do with. They don't know what to do with what's going on inside them. It literally let them do this and chop. And you can call it a wood chopper. You can give them a yoga cushion and let them hit it. You can give them a pillow, what else would you hit? Yes, there you go. Wendy, sometimes it's big. And for some people, you actually do want to, can it get bigger? Can you reach higher? Can you still do that same thing and really let it go? And again, you got to kind of get out of your own way and feel comfortable encouraging this if that's what you think they need. So one other one that I want to do, and then I'm gonna let you tell me what all you do. It's simply the act using your arms of asking why. Why? And it can have a lot of energy or it can be just tearful. Why? and just letting that why have some expression rather than why. It's like, no, open it up, open up the why that's there. And it's really an okay thing to do. So right after I learned all of this, my neighbor's mother died. And she and I had been talking anyway, and I said, do you want to come over on my deck? And I'll go over my notes from grief yoga with you and show you. And mostly she watched. Once in a while she tried something, but she took copies of all my notes. And I know she went home and did some of it and told me later it really helped my body to release this. And that's just about exactly a year ago. So I need to check in with her soon to see how she's doing. So what do you use? What else? What have you tried that has to do with the body and grief? Yeah, Nina.
I use clay, and part of the reason is that it's weighty, and so oftentimes, especially if people aren't engaged, in my class about healing, if I'm doing spiritual direction and someone is really stuck, and you can tell they're just so tight, I'll send them home with 25 pounds of clay and just tell them to cut off about a third of it and then throw it and throw it and throw it and throw it and throw it.
And when you say throw, what do you mean?
So it's very kinetic energy. So we want to get that grief out from this visceral area of the gut. And what we move with our body, the emotion that we move out of our gut moves through our arms and out our hands. And so if you take that clay and I invite them to yell when they're throwing it on the ground. And it's pretty, when we do the classes, because I'm there with them, it's really transformative to see, and it's been mostly women. I've had a couple of men, but to see women start out like this, because they're afraid to, they're just afraid. And so then encouraging them, no, we are going to pull it out from our guts and we are going to throw it. And just to see, and they come back the second time and they're dying to throw the clay. They just can't wait to get in there and throw it. So it's something heavy. I will tell people go chop wood, literally, because it just moves that energy from that gut area out. So.
Great, thank you. Having a tangible thing is helpful. Yeah.
I bike it out.
Hmm.
I find that and I kind of, when I need to, I remember one time when I was going through my divorce, I was biking really hard on the Greenway. I was biking fast and furious and hard. And I remember someone came up to me and they were like, whoa, you can really get her done. And it's like, not all the time can I get her done like that. But when I need to, oh my goodness. At the end of the ride, it's exhausting, but it's also just moving that along, getting it out of there. So I can be in a place where I can do things like problem solve and, be kind.
I have a friend who moves furniture. I kind of always know what's going on in your life because your room looks really different than it did before. And how the heck did you get that cupboard up here? Kind of, I did it. Okay. Wendy.
Well, a couple of years before my mother died, I started dancing to try to help a head injury, which, by the way, it worked like a charm. And I joined a dance troupe, which is not anything I had ever done before. And my identity, although I love to dance, was not as a dancer because, I'd never done it as a child or a teenager. And my experience of grief when my mom died was completely a physical experience. There were no stages, really not even tears. I didn't think about her all the time. It was not from the neck up.
Mhm.
And I would wake up at 2 a.m. and my whole body would be covered with these waves of nerve energy coming. I mean, I cannot tell you how many neurologists I saw, and not a single one said to me, has there been any big changes in your life in the posture? They're all like, oh, let's give you some painful tests. And one of my friends who has been a lifelong dancer and who identifies as a dancer and who uses dance as a form of social action said, let's create a dance. And at first I thought that was, I judged it as super kind of weird. But I tell you that we worked in her basement on this dance. I picked out the music. It was really intense. And we worked on the dance until we have never performed it. I worked on it until I was done.
Mhm.
Not with grief, because you don't get to have that day. But and eventually maybe you don't even want to have that day. But until I was done with that form of expression. And I always said that when my mom died, I'd have to go on antidepressants for a couple of years, not realizing what I would really have to do is create a dance.
Which was very antidepressant.
It worked. It really helped.
Cool story. What else?
I was going to mention, I have a niece who's an Ayurvedic practitioner. And so she got me into dry brushing. Does people know what that's? You wear these silk gloves. So you can get them at, I think even at Whole Foods and everything, they're just silk gloves, and you really, so you're rubbing your body. It's supposed to be something you do every morning. It's really great for your lymphatic system and your circulatory system. And I have to say, I'm not religious about doing it, or you know what I mean? I don't turn out to be an everyday person. But when I do it, and particularly when I do it kind of regularly, it's, and you do it all over your body, so your arms and your chest and your, torso and your legs. And anyway, I've just found that well, I'm sure it's sort of chakra stuff related, right? You're moving energy around, and and I don't know that much about all this stuff, but anyway, I mean, it just feels qualitatively different. Another thing from Tai Chi, warming up sometimes in Tai Chi and things like that I had taken was where you're shaking, where you're kind of flipping your body, your legs and just everything, and that is very, I think it gets stuff out. I mean, that's all I can say, is it just feels like it gets stuff out, and it kind of wakes you up in a way, in that physical way and in a mental way, like, okay, I got rid of that stuff or whatever it was, like the bad energy, and now here's the good energy kind of. Anyway, so those are just two things I've done in my life.
Thanks for sharing that. One of the things that when David Kessler talks about working with the body, he's talking about when you're working with someone on grief, you're so present that your own body might be picking up on what's going on with them. Like suddenly you're clenching your jaw. And so you or your hands or something. And so you might say, I find myself clenching my jaw when I'm talking to you on the phone. Is that happening to you? Is that you or is that me? Kind of as a way to introduce the topic. Or if someone is talking and they're out of breath, it's like, are you moving around while we're talking? Is that, it feels like you're out of breath and it's making it hard for me to breathe. Could you just stop for a second and we could breathe together and align our breath. And then you have sort of a path in, rather than saying, I want to introduce something about the body to you. It's like paying attention to what is already going on in that person's body is really helpful. When I coached over the phone a lot, and so I would ask, where are you sitting? Where are your feet? And then I would mimic it in my office, and then I would be able to say, well, I don't feel relaxed. Why do you sound relaxed? There's got to be something, there's a disconnect with the body posture you have and what the words that are coming out of your mouth and your tone of voice. There's something not working for me here. And then you just let the silence be and let them come up with what it is. I want to take us through one other exercise, and then we'll stop for this month. But is there anything anybody else wants to add right now?
What I really love about this exercise is that I think that it's as you're talking and as people are responding to the question that you're asking about what do you do, I think it's really clear that it's so individualized, and yet Wendy's dancing, that would not work for me. I cannot dance, but that was what she needed. And Judy's Tai Chi. And I think, to talk to people and bring out, like, what do you like to do? I like to take walks. Well, let's talk about that. And, helping people, because really in our society, when you are in grief, you've got a couple of choices. You can journal, or you can attend a support group, and that's what you can do. And this really opens up the field for, you can art, you can write songs, you can, whatever. It opens, it could be whatever it is, but it's your thing. It's beautiful.
Good. And I think we've had some great examples when Nina's talked about some of her grief work with people, or bereavement work. She's talked about people creating things that fit in their niche in the world, and is a great outlet for them. One of the women who was in the grief group in the class that I took talked about Paul Denniston's work. She lost her husband, and she said, I thought I was doing okay, and then at 18 months it all just blew apart. And she said, then I went looking for Paul Denniston's body stuff, and it really made a huge difference for me. So okay, so one final exercise I want to do with us, and it's actually, I want you to take this one to heart, just like you did the one where we were touching the heart. This is called an appreciation meditation, and you make a bowl with your hands. And then just look into the bowl and generate a feeling of appreciation about what you are grieving, or what your experience is like working with people who are grieving, or what your experience is working with people who are dying. Just allow your hands in that bowl to hold and caress the appreciation that you feel. And then when you're ready, bring the bowl up to your heart and just say, yes. And notice how your body feels and where you feel it. It's my husband turned 75 last month, but this Saturday we're doing a birthday party for him. And it just is occurring to me right now that I'm going to do an appreciation meditation with everyone just having them imagine what it is they appreciate about him, and then pulling it up to their heart and saying yes. Thank you for today. I think I'm complete unless there's more.
Thank
that
you, ML, for another wonderful and thought-provoking discussion with us. That's wonderful. Well, hello, everyone. I want to pull up my agenda. I don't think I'll keep us too long today, but I do want to have you guys thinking about, in a creative way, thinking about what Allie has to say. What I really love about Allie, she's new, and our marketing team historically doesn't like to use the H word. It makes them uncomfortable. So it's like Shalom's marketing team. And so we typically don't get talked about very much in outreach. And that's unfortunate because, as I'm sure you guys have seen by now, like it makes me really sad when someone comes into hospice at the last minute and they could have benefited from our services months ago. And there's so little we can do during the last, when they come in. We do a nice 11th hour. I won't say we don't. We got a nice 11th hour, but I wish people would come in sooner. If I had my wishes of wish, at least today, would be that hospice didn't have a bad connotation, that people ran to it, because we are Emily's Ruby is getting discharged in a couple of days, and her daughter Trish is fighting. She has no, what's the word I want? God dang it. She is asking that we don't do that. And she's asked twice now to have that reviewed by the Department of Health to see if we can't keep her mom on. She loves hospice so much. And it's hard. It's hard when somebody dies, but it's hard when they have to go. And, you know, you kind of, it's one of the selling points is like, hey, you know, you might graduate. And people are like, okay, well, that's better. And then when graduation time comes, it doesn't feel good. And so, thoughts with you, Emily, and we'll have a conversation too, because that's a really rough place to be. Typically, they'll come back on again, and then you'll have another opportunity to serve. But anyway, so if you're thinking, I really like the idea of, like, I think, for example, ML doing something on, you know, movement, gentle movement, and I don't know if sadness, but maybe stress or whatever, like gentle movement and stress, or moving, you know, something like that, where you can come into this space and you can offer a service like what you did today. And then we can talk about the program and thinking about that for yourself, what kind of things, because it's very individual. Juji, I don't know if you got the picture. I'm sure you didn't get a picture, but of the picture that you took of the hands, right? The hands that you did. Yeah. Yeah, of course you wouldn't. And that's the right thing to do. But the description of it, and I think we all got it. Do you want to just talk about that for a second?
Well, I really wanted them to be able to, I know there was probably a lot going on in their head. They were, that whole day, they were talking about stories about their past, some funny, some, all of that. And I just wanted for them to be able to have a memory of that, those last times that they had with their father. So I asked them, I was like, have you taken any pictures while you guys were here? And they said no. And I was like, would you like me to? And they were like, oh, we didn't even think about that. That would be really great. Thank you. And so they kind of all three of them kind of went around his bed, and you know, I took pictures with a few of them. And then I was about to give back the camera, and I was just like, or the phone. And I was like, wait, I have one more in mind. And I was like, can you all just, each one of you, place a hand on his as if you're holding it? And so I just took a more of a closer up photo of all their hands and his together, and they really loved it.
And that's such a beautiful story. And in fact, if you recall, in our policies, it says no pictures taken, none. And it made me take a step back on that. And I'm really rethinking that, because I think when you're there and you have opportunity and you can help them think about something that they can't think about, then that's part of what you do as a doula. And so maybe the rule is not on your phone, or if you take it on your phone, then you send it to somebody right away and you delete it right away, or something to that effect, because that was a really beautiful way. You affected that family. I'm sure they treasure. I just want to.
It was definitely not on my phone. I took the picture of on their phone and gave it right back to them. So
yeah.
No,
And
nothing.
that's because that's superseded, because the rule was, because everyone gets so upset about data privacy and blah blah, and it's just gets complicated, but it really isn't. And it really isn't, because you created something that was so beautiful with that family. I'm quite sure they treasure it, and I'm sure that they were like, oh my God, thank God she thought about that. We wouldn't have had these had you not thought about that. So it's really, beautiful, intuitive work. And maybe, maybe one of the things you could consider talking about is how to take pictures with somebody that, that memorable pictures, and then some examples, or, thoughts of different ways that you can, without being, I don't know, just something to think about in, as we think about how to creatively do something. Because I know if we're of service, then people open up so much more. They're receptive to our message. So anyway, keep thinking about that. And I'm so glad we have Allie, because she likes to use the H word.
So I have a question, Rhonda. When I know that when you're presenting to a group, stories is what people resonate with, stories, and they remember stories. How does data privacy come in? I could tell a couple stories about patients I've had. I don't know if I want to feel comfortable telling them. Do I need to get permission from their family before I would tell that story?
Well, my thought is, if you're not using names, because people, I guess if you're feeling, here's what I'll say. If you're not using names, then there's not a problem, or room numbers, or private information. But if you're feeling like you should ask permission, then I think you should ask permission. Okay. And you can say, sometimes I'm asked to speak. Are you okay if I use your story if I don't say your names? Because your story is striking, or something to that effect. I think that if you're feeling you need to do that, then I think you should do that. And then you should tuck those stories away. Yeah.
What if if they're dead, that's a whole different deal, right?
There's no problem if they're dead, but if you're feeling like you'd like to ask their family if that's okay, if you use that just out of respect for them, then you can certainly and should do that, right? If you're feeling like I don't feel comfortable telling that story without their, the permission of the family.
Well, it's also a way for the family to be of service.
Absolutely.
Framing it that way, your loved one can be of service if you allow me to tell this story to this group. Okay.
Yep.
I'm thinking about Tom Berenbaum specifically. a young man who died and some of his experiences along the way.
Yeah, there was a lot of learning that took place in that situation. It was an unusual situation. And
Well, and
death.
even for Juji, to tell the story about Peter Leto's family.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because I think a lot of times, people need permission, and I think elderly folks really need permission for so many things. And just to say, have you ever thought of, and even we have a picture of my mom with my oldest, her oldest grandchild, or great grandchild, and it was her hand he was a baby, he had just been born, his hand in her hand. And that is the only picture I have of my mom's hand. And he's 21. So, it's just, it's like, yeah, that stuff is precious. It's huge.
Mm-hmm. Aren't hands powerful when you think about hands that you miss that you don't get to see anymore? It's powerful. Just really, really stunning, beautiful work, Juji. Just stunning.
Yeah, really great.
Thank you.
Okay, so I guess I got somebody, I can't remember who, honestly, was talking to me about the email traffic. And I think that if you feeling, I guess maybe we can talk about that. Is there a thought that there's too much email, or that, do we need to talk about email traffic? Because it feels to me, ML and Nina G talk to new doulas about how to kind of manage that, right?
Yep. So I tell new doulas when they're starting out, they're feeling overwhelmed, because several of them have said that. Pay attention to emails from Rhonda, myself, and ML. And if you don't have time to read the rest of them, maybe you'll be able to work yourself into it, because there is such richness in the notes themselves. And I totally get if someone is feeling overwhelmed by that. I think, one of the things, believe it or not, that I do read everybody's notes, and I think I respond to everybody. I usually do it privately. I do it at night before I go to sleep. They are just so beautiful, and it's really just a lovely practice. And I know that sometimes there's a lot of notes, but it just really there's a richness that, and I learn too. So just a plug for that. And it's a nice way to go to sleep.
I really like how you reply privately. I don't mind emails. I get a lot of emails, and I don't mind emails that are reply all, because people need to know. But there's a fair number of reply alls that really are not useful. And I know I'm probably just a crabby old lady, but I wish people would be more discerning about the difference between reply and reply all. Because I'm sure everyone else is like me, where you get several hundred emails per day, and it's just a lot.
That's really, maybe we can, I can send an email out if you like, or you guys can talk about it at your doula only meeting if you get more doulas there. Because I think that's really great. Because I think if you're saying something that has a lot of substance to it, to somebody's, then that would be a reply all. And if you're saying, hey, good job, then maybe that's just a reply. Mm-hmm.
Well, I think also to not use voltage for that, because that turns into a pain in the ass. And so you can go all the way back out and then hit reply, just reply to that person, and offer your thoughts on it. That's what I do. I don't do it in voltage. So I don't use the initials. I figure that they've written the email that says what it's, you know, what I'm responding to. So hopefully they know what I'm talking about. But yeah, it's just as part of, and I'm just going to say this as part of what I do for the team. I feel that it's generally my responses are very tender. And tender is hard for me because it makes me emotional, but you people are doing great work.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
The other just practical thing, if you're overwhelmed by emails, make sure you create a doula folder so that they automatically go into a doula folder, and you don't have to sort through all of them. It's like, I know if I got a doula email, I'll open that folder. Otherwise I don't look at
All
all.
right, that's you know what, it's really helpful because I don't use voltage. So I don't know the ins and outs of the voltage thing. So it's really
That's
helpful.
not a voltage thing.
That's not a
That's
voltage.
just who all of your emails. If I get an email from any of you, even if you're asking me to borrow my car, it's going to go into my doula thing just because I've put your email address in there.
Oh, is that a Gmail function?
Well, no.
Comcast?
I don't
You
use
just
Gmail.
manually do it? How does it go over there?
You create one, you create a mailbox. I've been doing that for years I got a VIP mailbox that certain people that I know, I need to pay attention to their emails from the hundreds of others that I get. And then I have a doula one.
You can just
Oh.
create this filter.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a
it's a
filter
filter.
and it'll just automatically put in.
Number.
Well, once you create it and with the email addresses, yeah. Received from, and it automatically goes there.
So I think what I'm going to do is, if this sounds like it's something that would be helpful, is like an email, what's the word I want? Like,
Etiquette?
yep, doula email etiquette document. And I'm going to get it started with what we've talked about. And then I'll send it out to y'all's to have a look at it, see if there's anything you want to add to it. And then we can just sort of, and that can help people sort of manage the email a little bit.
Or just send it to ML and I first.
Okay. So we don't have so much emails bouncing around.
Yeah.
Will do. If anyone wants to be on the email committee, just let me know.
No committee. We're not doing this is not that big a problem that we need.
All right, we'll get it solved. And then, well, and people may come up with things after we do it and we can add to it. That's not a problem.
Yes.
Okay, that's a great idea. I'll get that started and get that out to you too. Okay, the next thing on my agenda is, so this is new because the volunteer program fell asleep during COVID, and then you guys have now been here a couple of years. But typically what we do is annually we do a training, and that training is a review of data privacy, infection control. I added how to down and off PPE, things like that. And I'm doing this training for the other volunteers that are not end of life doulas, but the rest of the folks on Wednesday. And that's the first one I've done in 2 years. And so I smell something. Hold on. Bill, is something on fire? Oh my God. Hold on just a second. What's going on here? Bill, is this on fire?
Well, I'm glad she didn't mute so we can hear the excitement.
Okay. All right. I think it's okay. I think my house is not on fire, but it smells like it is. Anyway. Okay. So I'm doing the training on, and I haven't done it in a couple of years. I am creating a version that's do it at home, so you can independently study it, or we can do a group. and we can do a combination of the two. Those who would like to, I'd probably set up a separate meeting for those who would like to do it in a group and discuss. If anybody has an interest in that, and some people prefer to do that to independent study, and then you can also do it on your own. So what do you think?
I'd be happy to do it on my own.
Is it required? That's my first question.
Oh,
It
yeah,
is.
that's a
It
good
is
first.
required.
Yeah, and I
So
mean, I've been through them many years, but
yes,
I'm a
Judy's the
volunteer.
exception. Yep. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'd rather it be sort of a self-paced or whatever you call that, administrative.
I should have that finished up in the next week or so, and I'll send it out to you guys, and I'll give you a couple months to do it. But the reason it's required is because you guys are supposed to be treated just like staff. And there's annual education that staff have to do, and that's volunteers too. And it's more than what we do here. It's specific things like emergency preparedness and things like that. I'm trying to make it as relevant as I can to the work that you do, for sure. Okay, so I will put out an email to this is a recorded, so people that look at this should be able to get this information. And you can just look that will be coming your way. And I don't know what to say, except that's how it goes. Okay. Does anybody have anything that they would like to, there was one more thing. We've got a new person on, and I'd really like, if someone wants to consider taking them. We had his wife on a couple of years ago, 2019. His name is Peter Chow. He is prickly, and he doesn't like, he's like a hermit, a prickly hermit. And it's not about him, it's about his son. His son is lovely, and his mom died, and he was very sad. And we served her in bereavement to the capacity that we could. He lives in California. So this would be an excellent case. He wants the services. An excellent case for someone who wants to do it over the phone, or is okay with doing it over the phone. He's coming to town this weekend. And so I'd really love it. I think he's the one that we're 11th houring, or that we're on the, he's on the 11th hour watch list right now. So I don't think it's going to be a long time until Peter dies.
So the request is doula services for Peter's son. Okay.
That's the request. And yeah. Okay. So consider that and let me know. I can send more information out on that one too. Okay.
Is Nina going to do a call? Nina, are you going to do a concierge call on that one?
I can push that one up further. I've got a few behind. I guess I have to watch to see if he doesn't die in the next couple days. I can call.
Okay.
Just quick, did
Yeah,
they have the survey at Shalom?
We did the home care survey last week, and now there's a hospice survey so my understanding is that they're 3 to 4 years behind the survey teams. So we may not get a survey for the next 3 to 4 years for hospice. And so we're going to stop holding our guts in.
I was going to say all that drama.
We're going to just go ahead and relax. And we do an excellent job. We all do an excellent job, and we're going to keep on doing an excellent job. And when they come, whenever that is, they can see how brightly we shine. I'm not worried about it.
I just wondered. Thanks.
I know. I'm glad you brought it up, because there was
all this build up to it. It was.
I know. And then you get to, it's almost like, when you have a bad diagnosis and you're waiting to die, and then you just don't. And at some point you have to just be like, okay.
It sounds like you released some.
Just today, I finally decided to, because I was like, oh my God, we can't live this way. This is not
You can't, right.
so we're
Oh,
fine.
that's funny.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Is there anything that anybody would like to talk about before we say goodnight? Yeah. All right. Well, thank you all for attending tonight. Thank you all for the good work that you do. Yeah. Have a wonderful evening.
Let me add one thing.
Mhm.
I live right 2 blocks west of the cathedral on Selby Avenue. And on Sunday, if you happen to be attending the event at the Capitol to protest what's going on, I have family at my house, so I can't just say, come on over, but I can say, I'll let you in to use the bathroom. I'll have water. So feel free. And hopefully I'll be down there too, but I don't know exactly how that will happen.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
Sunday.
Does everyone have that they can text you and say what's your address if they want to do that?
They should.
Okay.
You said that that is Sunday, right?
Yeah, the 17th, 11 o'clock at the Capitol.
11 to 3.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks again, everyone. Have a wonderful evening. Bye.
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 Bye.